was covered up from head to toe. Now they pretty much a bit bare naked. But back then it was obvious. You knew it was a hole, but she was covered. So it's time to pray the harlot. And Tamar rose up and put off her garments of widow, which said, this man didn't keep his word, so I got to trick him. And she put a veil upon her, and she entirely covered up, and she went and sat in a public thoroughfare, which is up on the road of Timnah. And Judah passed and saw her, and took her, and he came to her. Now, his wife's body ain't even cold. And he's out thinking he got a prostitute, but that's his daughter-in-law. He didn't know. She's all wrapped up like a mummy. Boy, the Bible was saying. And he passed by and saw her, and took her, and came to her. He went up in her. And she conceived by him, and at that time of being delivered, behold, there were twins in her womb. And she called the name of the first Perez, and the name of the second Zar. And in those days Joseph was still confined in prison house in the land of Egypt at the time of the attendance of Pharaoh. And were standing before him the chief of the butlers and the chief of the bakers, which belonged to the king of Egypt. And the butler took wine and placed it before the king's drink. And the baker placed bread before the king to eat. And the king drank of the wine and ate of the bread, and his servants and ministers that ate at the king's table. And while they were eating and drinking, the butler and the baker remained there. And the Pharaoh's ministers found many flies in the wine, which the butler had brought, and stones of nitre were found in the baker's bread. And the captain of the guard placed Joseph. And the captain of the guard placed Joseph as an attendant on Pharaoh's officers. And Pharaoh's officers were in confinement 1 year. So he became the steward of the jail. Always rise to the top no matter where old Joseph is. And at the end of the year, they both dreamed dreams in one night in a place of confinement where they were. And in the morning Joseph came to them to attend upon them as usual. And he saw them, and behold, their countenances were dejected and sad. And Joseph asked them, why are your countenances sad and dejected this day? And they said unto him, we dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And Joseph said unto them, relate, I pray you, unto me your dream. Your dream unto me, and God shall give you an answer of peace as you desire. And the butler related his dream unto Joseph. He said, I saw in my dream, and behold, a large vine was before me. And up on the vine I saw 3 branches. And the vine speedily blossomed and reached a great height. And its clusters were ripened and became grapes. And I took the grapes and pressed them in a cup and placed it in Pharaoh's hand, and he drank. And Joseph said unto him, the 3 branches that was up on the vine are 3 days. Yet within 3 days the king will order thee to be brought out, and he will restore thee to thine office. And thou shalt give the king his wine to drink, as when thou was his butler. But let him find favor in thy sight, that thou shalt remember me to Pharaoh when it be well with thee. And do kindness unto me, and get me brought forth from this prison. For I was stolen away from the land of Canaan, and was sold for a slave in this place. And also that which was told thee concerning my master's wife is false, for they placed me in this dungeon for naught, for nothing. And the butler answered Joseph, saying, if the king deal well with me at first, as thou hast interpreted me, I will do also that thou desires, and get thee brought out of this dungeon. And the baker, seeing that Joseph had accurately interpreted the butler's dream, also approached and related the whole of his dream to Joseph. And he said unto him, In my dream I saw and behold 3 white baskets upon my head. And I looked, and behold, there was in the upper basket all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh. And behold, the birds were eating them from off my head. And Joseph said unto him, the 3 baskets which thou saw are 3 days. Yet within 3 days Pharaoh will take off thy head and hang thee up on a tree. And the birds will eat the flesh from off thee as thou sawest in the dream. In those days the queen was about to be delivered, and upon that day she bare a son unto the king of Egypt. And they proclaimed that the king had gotten his firstborn son, and all the people of Egypt together with the officers and servants of Pharaoh rejoiced greatly. And upon the 3rd day of the birth of Pharaoh made a feast for his officers and servants, for the host of the land of Zar and the land of Egypt. And all the people of Egypt and the servants of Pharaoh came to eat and drink with the king at the feast of his son, and to rejoice at the king's rejoicing. And all the officers of the king and his servants were rejoicing at that time for 8 days at the feast. And they made merry with all sorts of musical instruments, with timbrels, and with dances in the king's house for 8 days. And the butler to whom Joseph had interpreted his dream forgot Joseph, and he did not mention him to the king as he had promised. For this thing was from the Lord in order to punish Joseph, because he had trusted in man. And Joseph remained after this in prison house for 2 years, until he completed 12 years. So if he wouldn't have said anything, God probably would have opened the door, and God wanted to do the miracle. All right, so we're going to stop here, and we are at let's pick up at chapter 47. We just finished 46. All right. So this is the Joseph series. We're burning through it, and this is volume 5. All right, if I'm the one that taught you, give. Go to streetpriestministry.org, hit the donate button. Tithes, first fruit, alabaster box belong to the Lord. Only if I taught you that. Only if I taught you. If I didn't teach you, you don't owe me anything. It's God's way. Galatians 6:6. If you did taught spiritual things, give material things to the one that taught you. Hope you learned a lot about Joseph and God's ways. And a lot of you that's in situations, and I'm sure you ain't in a situation that Joseph was in. I doubt seriously if anybody sitting out there is close to, has gone through close to what he's gone through. But God is with you in your situation, whatever your valley may be. And so this is why we study this word, to get encouragement, to get faith, to get hope, to persevere, to endure. God is with you through your circumstance. Like I said, did my teaching on Psalm 84, blessed men go through valleys of weeping. And God is with you in the week. And all of us would look like for God to snap his finger and get us out of whatever situation, whatever valley we've been in, especially if it's been a long valley, whatever kind of valley, sickness, depression, some kind of addiction, family issues, medical issues, whatever it may be, whatever financial issues, whatever your valley may be, marital issues, spousal issues, the same thing. We want God to snap a finger and deliver us. But you're learning in God's ways. And he's going to go through you. He's going to go through it with you through whatever the circumstance. In this case, it's prison for Joseph. Falsely accused. God's waiting 12 years in prison. He went in at 18, he's coming out at 30. Jesus started this ministry, by the way, at 30 years old. It was ended at 33. A lot of archetypes of Joseph and Jesus. That's why we're reading this. He was the Jesus of the Old Testament. And he suffered. He was falsely accused and he suffered unjustly. But look, God is with you. And God is with us. He's with you. It ain't going to be a a feather bed or a rose garden at all times. You're gonna have your peaks and you're gonna have your valleys. But the whole idea is we're on a trip. The whole idea is to stay moving. We're pilgrims, we're strangers down here, and we need to keep marching. To keep it moving. Our home and our destiny is heaven. We're pilgrims and strangers down here, and we all live like it. We're passing through. Even our circumstances is fleeting. Nothing lasts forever. God's going to bring you through, and you're going to be victorious, and you're going to be a stronger, tougher person going through these trials and tribulations, knowing that these are designed to season you. Like I said earlier, to make beef jerky Christians out of. This is what God wants. So we can rule and reign with Christ. We're going to rule and reign too. We're going to get promoted too in the next life. We're going to be rich too in the next life, just like Joseph was. All right, so you persevere and hang in here. I hope this series on Joseph is really giving you insight into God's ways. All right. So, good day, good evening, good night to you around the world. May you grow in faith in Christ Jesus' mighty name.